Hi guys, welcome back to Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I am your host, Savannah. We're doing another episode where I sit with a fellow competitor and we're going to go over your journey to the stage. So welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and tell me where you're from.
Hey, so good to be here. My name is Heather Munafo. I'm originally from Colorado, currently living in Texas. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here.
I know. Thank you for coming. Happy New Year's Eve. We're recording
I
this like
know.
on December
Happy
30th.
New
What are your
Um,
plans for 2024?
2024 is going to be most so I'm actually a coach myself. So my 2024, a lot of my own, I'm off season right now, just letting my physique build. But my focus for 2024 is honestly fulfilling the role of kind of going into being a bonus mom, being there for my competitors for 2024. I've got a lot of awesome shows lined up. So yeah, just kind of being there, learning a lot about being there for other people this 2024. I guess that could be the best way to put it. But I'm pumped. I'm pumped. And I'm probably going to hit the stage myself in 2025.
2025. Okay, so this whole year you're planning to be off season.
This whole year is more about it's hard to be in prep when my athletes are competing. Does that make sense? And that's just how new family obligations and this year looks like. I have competed every single year since about 2018, and it's good. It's been a little bit different in a family setting. Prepping that is definitely different than prepping when you're living on your own. So, yeah, that's my goals for 2024. Will be a little bit more on the business side of things and coaching. But yeah, if that answers the question.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of where we can start. Okay, so you're an athlete, you're a coach too, and now it sounds like you're mom and family. So things have
Mhm.
definitely changed along the way, but let's go to the beginning. So where
Mm.
did this journey start? How did you get introduced to it? What was like the first thing? Were you an athlete growing up? Give me your background before you hit the stage.
I have always been just so fascinated by the human physique. And when I first started getting into program design and just kind of obsessing about that was 15. Unfortunately, it took a little bit of a dark turn. And in 2017, I was anorexic. It was a very in the face decision I had to make. I won't get too much into detail, but basically, my health was very much in shambles. My self care was like, it was terrible. And I had to face the realization that, and not to sound too dramatic, but that I was killing myself. And I had to choose either to find another obsession or because I am a very, very obsessed brain, you could say, I'm pretty extreme. I had to make a change or I was going to very much significantly reduce my lifespan. And that's when I found bodybuilding. So I was working at GNC at the time. I was actually manager, and one of my employees just was in there always talking about gains and like the energy was so positive. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna check out what this bodybuilding was. So I did some research, and these ladies on the stage, I'll never forget seeing the ladies on stage, the empowerment, right? They weren't focused on being skinny, they weren't frail, they were badasses. And I was had a really big moment of self-realization when I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like a shadow of a human. And I knew, so I'm a little bit of a crier, so I apologize. But I knew that's not what I looked like in my soul. And I wanted to make that change. So I promised myself in the beginning, it really wasn't about winning. And not that there's anything wrong with that mindset, but honestly, I just made a promise to myself that day that no matter how long it took or what it took, I was going to look like a bodybuilder and I was going to fix what I had done to myself. And it, and I plunged into the world of bodybuilding. Biggest things I wish someone had told me in the beginning. Well, I was pretty severely wrapped up in the world of eating disorders. I was so bad at communicating with my coach, like so much crap. They had no idea. And I very rockily made it to the stage. I don't think anybody really understood the ugly behind those preps. Of course, they only see like the glamour.
Yeah.
But I very slowly and painfully learned to take care of myself. And that was the biggest thing bodybuilding was teaching me, was getting my self-care in order. You know, if you're prepping, you have to have, and that's what I love about bodybuilding. It makes you have everything in line, right? Your finances, you need to have a game plan, your time management skills, your sleep, your self-care. You need to like take care of your muscles. You need to actually fuel so you can push weight in the gym. And I very, it was a big struggle. Honestly, girl, it was so ugly behind the scenes. But I can't tell you how many times I had to tell myself, like, okay, like this whole week was a hot mess. Yesterday was terrible, but like meal number one, okay, let's go. We're gonna try this again. And I don't think anybody really knew the whole story behind that, but I started learning self care. I started putting on muscle. I started gaining weight in a wonderful way. And my health issues vanished. It took years, right? I put on about 55 pounds, and obviously that would like, prep, and then that prep would go down and then building and then um, but I was amazed at the body's ability to recover because I was in a bad spot. And bodybuilding helped me find my health again, empower me, and then I had the beautiful opportunity to start helping other people make it to the stage, and really teach them mindset and communication. Because, girl, like being a very, we'll say, a hot mess competitor, I knew a lot of really good questions to ask my own competitors, right? And that is really what started it all.
Oh my gosh, wow. Well, I'm excited to get into this journey a little bit more. So thanks for sharing like the highlights of it. But it is true, like you're saying, like when you see these athletes on stage, you see, holy shit, like look at all that muscle. I wish I could look like that. They're perfectly tanned, like everything is like in place, like it's perfectly balanced for literally 30 seconds and you don't
Yep.
understand, like you don't understand it's that picture was captured for only to look like that for
Yes.
literally 30 seconds.
Yes.
We do not look like that year round, but to get there, it's really, really hard. It is
Mm-hmm.
kind of, you get this beautiful sculpture of a physique body at the end of it, but the process to sculpt it and build it and eat to grow and training and growing muscle, it is ugly. It is
It
often
is.
ugly before it's it's not as like glamorous as we think, but it is a process and a journey. So it like I mean 55 pounds, like that is a high number. That is
Yeah.
not a light amount of weight, like light work. Like that is a huge transformation to gain in
Yes.
that. And then to be stage, I'm thinking you were probably stage lean 55 pounds up from where you were, or it was a heavier weight than you were.
It was a heavy. I would have to double check exactly. I know I've gained 55 pounds. That probably included a good healthy amount of fat. So there might have been an off season weight. I'd have to double check, honestly.
Yeah,
I try not to focus too much on specific numbers in the off season, but I will say I am the heaviest I've ever weighed in my life as of right now. So I'm in my building phase,
that's
and I'm leaner than I've looked at most of my off-season weight. So it's like I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes the numbers like, whoa, I have to like check myself a little bit. But I love what you said. How it's a process of sculpting and ugly behind the scenes. I don't know if have you ever worked with pottery or anything like that?
yeah.
Yeah, like lump of clay, or it's like gross and like sloppy, and you have to, and then the finished product is this elegant, like glistening piece. I love to relate the process of bodybuilding to the stage a lot like pottery. Only, you only look like that for that second.
Yeah. No, it's really true. Like you're a little bit softer in the off season, so you are that like lumpy texture too, and then as you get leaner, you reveal the muscle, it's more sculpted and it does take time to build and it takes time to grow and it's not a fast process. I mean, you started like what, 7, 8 years ago? Like that's
Seven,
a
8 years ago.
long journey. So what is your goal with competing? Like what is your focus on with competing? Like what do you want to accomplish?
With competing, I would love to make it to a national stage when I'm ready. I've been nationally qualified before. I didn't want to show up unless it was Nash because the if you of course it's a different caliber of athlete, and I didn't want to go just to place 20th because that's
Yeah.
the reality once you go from NPC to nationals. Um, Life took a little bit of a turn for me about what a year and a half ago. I attempted my first prep in a family setting, did Emerald Cup. It did not go well. My health really took a bad turn. So, right now, with my goals, I want to get my physique to a healthy, happy level sustainably for just a second. I've done a lot to this poor body of mine, and I mean, this might be really taboo to say, but if that means I'm not going to compete for a length of time, not that my goals are I'm still building, I'm still doing all of that, but I don't want to risk my health again like I have in the past. And if that means, and this might be, sorry, bad for the podcast to say, but if that means I'm not going to make it to the stage and I'm focusing on getting other people to the stage, then so be it. It's not like the stage is going to go anywhere. I'm 27 now. I've seen a lot of people at all ages hit the stage again. So my journey to the stage might be taking a little bit of a pause while I'm focusing on health, family, but you have to have your priorities in line too as a competitor. One of my biggest mistakes as a competitor was going through prep when I was not ready.
Yeah.
And you know, mental grit is great, but there are some things you do need to have in place before you go through a prep. Taking my athletes through prep, I put a lot of requirements on them before we even get started because I don't want their last month of prep to be absolute hell. Of course that's part of the sport. It's an extreme sport, but there's a line. And I know you know this, you've gone through plenty of preps yourself, right? So but and sorry, that's a roundabout answer, but that's kind of where I'm at. I want to make sure that I'm not compromising my health or my family to make it to the stage, if that
No,
makes sense.
yeah, it does make sense. I'm glad that you bring this up too. It's because, when you're in the competing world, it seems like when you're in the off season, it's like everyone's competing and I'm going to be left out and all this feelings of off season feels. And that's kind of where I've been sitting in the off season. It's not really, it is fun, but it's not, you feel like you might be like having that FOMO of, oh, I
Yeah,
wish I was starting to prep or blah, blah, blah. Right. But the whole entire thing about bodybuilding and prepping doesn't fix any problems. Like when
no,
you go into a prep, all of the problems that you have are like it kind of heightens them or it just like pushes them away. I know for myself personally, it's like I would just go into a prep and then just put my life on hold. So now
yeah,
I can pigeonhole focus here and I don't have to deal with these emotions and these like extreme things that are going on in the background. I'll just deal with that. I'm prepping right now. If that's not important, you just kind of like throw out your emotions and you just kind of become a little robot and you just all I can think about is gym, cardio, training, blah, blah, blah. And it gets you through the day and it progresses you forward in time because, before you know it, you blink and 16 weeks go by and
your stage and and it feels great, right?
yeah, it does.
Um, and I honestly, girl, that's what I attempted for Emerald Cup. While in the very beginning of filling in kind of a bonus mom role, and without getting into too much detail, the little one has a lot of abandonment issues. So when I tried to go robot mode, it did not work.
Mm,
It really pushed me. I'm thankful, even though it was a hot mess of a prep, and like I placed the worst. I won't even talk about it, but I placed the worst I ever had. I'm so thankful I went through that because it really showed me, there like you do need to be able to go into that like
Yeah.
selfish. I use that word lightly. I mean, like it is a selfish sport, right? But there has to be balance when you're in a family setting. I have so much more respect for the competitors who do that in a family setting. My first ever attempt at it, like, girl, I can't multitask well. So
Mhm.
but
I can't imagine going through a prep. Like it's only been me and my little family of dogs, and they're not, there's no responsibility. It's just I just, take care of my health. But if you have not just yourself to take care of, now we have other people. We have like this relationship. Your relationships are truly important. Like if you don't have like solid relationships going on, it's going to make prepping really difficult. And I don't think you can see that until you go through a hot mess prep. And then you
yeah.
get and you see your physique and you think, well, why did I do that? And you can just see almost the stress on your body. You can almost
Mm-hmm.
see it. And it's just like, man, if I just would have spent that time not dieting and stressing myself even more, I probably could have came back faster and better. And now, like, but this is a part of the sport. Like you kind of have to have some bad preps to realize like, okay, in order to go into it, I need to be mentally in a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like mental health going into prep, you have to be strong going into it. Because if you're not strong starting your prep, it is not gonna get better. Unfortunately, prep doesn't help anything. It's just gonna make it harder. Like less calories doesn't do anything for you. More cardio is a stress. Like your prep
Mm-hmm.
is an added stress to your life. So when you kind of do need to be on a point where you're not as stressed out to be able to handle the extra stress that comes with prepping.
Yes, and communication, if you start a prep with poor communication skills, they are not going to get better as you get less and less carved up. The depletion, the moodiness, the like, it will take a toll on your relationships. Absolutely. So if you are someone that has like if you're living with other people, communication needs to be like top, and they need to understand what I mean, it will be a stress on them. Period. The end. You
Yeah.
cannot be around other people in a close proximity when you're prepping. They need to know what it's going to look like. And if they cannot handle that, like there just needs to be a lot of negotiations in place prior to the hard times. That was probably my biggest lesson of the last year. Um, but yes, I love that. A lot of things that competitors just don't know until they go through it, and things I wish I had known more about.
Yes. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I would have known. Like, why didn't anyone tell me it was gonna be really fucking hard? Like, why didn't anyone tell me that I was never gonna see my body the same and I was never gonna be able to look at food the same, that I would never be able to look at like like weighing yourself the same way, that I wouldn't look at time the same way. Like there's just so much stuff that like prep really does teach you. And there's a lot of things. It's like don't just do it to do it until you've researched and you're fully vested and prepared. And that is anyone that is in your house is going to go on prep with you,
Yes,
right? They're going on
absolutely.
that journey with you. It is a solo sport. You do have to be selfish. And that is what happens when you're in the gym for 3 hours a day.
Yes,
There, I mean, we have to, when is that going to happen? And what happens when there's no more date nights? Can we handle that? Can we
yes,
handle going to a restaurant and me not eating? Can we handle us eating separate food for 4 months? Can we handle when I can't talk? Literally, and it's not even, you're not even trying to. It's just you're so tired. You don't have enough calories to hold a conversation, to say words, right? It's just very short when you don't mean things and you're just hungry and hangry and you snap. Sometimes a
yep.
snap, it's like, ah,
Not
why do
over
you mean
everything.
you
Someone's eating a bagel in the same room. You're like, Like, how dare you?
Yes. Right? Oh my
um,
gosh, you're keeping me up an extra minute past 9 p.m. I
yeah,
can't believe you.
yeah.
Don't you know
Oh
I
my
have to
gosh.
get up at 5 a.m. to train?
Mhm.
Da, da, da. And it's
Um,
everything is heightened. It's funny. Like we become these little prep monsters.
yes, yes. I think there is a lot that you can gain from a prep, of course, right? That's why we love the sport of bodybuilding.
Mhm.
In your opinion, when should somebody consider themselves ready to start a prep? Because I'm fascinated to know your insight about that.
Well, okay, so me personally, I need to know during that time, like does it make sense? Like financially, can I afford this? Like I
Mm,
know how much it costs.
biggie.
Can I afford a membership fee? Can I afford travel to that location? Can I afford coaching? Cost of extra protein. Like the grocery bills get expensive when you're eating so much protein. Like even though you're not eating a ton, like that's a lot of meat. So just kind of thinking about it, as far as like the time of year, is there holidays? Like, do I have what's on my schedule? Is there an unforgettable experience that I want to have that I don't want to be dieting for?
Mm,
Sometimes that happens. Like I know Christmas time is really hard. I try to prep when it's ideal for me. I do my best when I don't feel like I'm missing out. I don't like prepping through the holidays. So a show in December is not a good time. So I really try to make it, okay, I'm going to pick a show strategically that is going to be great for, my family. So we can still go on holiday trips or we can, like, I have the summer. What time of year do I want to be lean? I don't like dieting when it's cold outside. Like I want to be a little warmer because I'm already freezing. I hate being freezing cold. Those are like little things, but then like mentally, do I feel like my calories are in a good spot? Like, did I give myself enough time? So if I like, where am I at as far as like, okay, I know my stage weight, I know how much I need to get there. That would be X amount. So I would like, okay, I'm 16 pounds up. I want to do a show with this. Does it make sense? And like, where are my calories? If I'm still doing an hour of cardio 5 days a week, that is not time to start prep. Like I would need my cardio as low as possible and my calories as high as possible.
mm,
And that's when I'm like, okay, I might start thinking about prep. And then also from the last show, or if it's your first time, it's just like I need to make sure like have I improved? If I can't say with like looking at my physique or like feeling like the strength in the gym, there's no improvements there. Like, do I need more time before like I don't want to waste a prep because I've done it where I've jumped into a prep before I was like mentally ready and
mm,
just doing it to do a show because I just can't stand being in the off season. I just want to
mm,
be lean and shredded. It's like there's so many times like I really wish I would have taken like years, not just months. Like a real off season is a year plus. It's not
mm,
3 months. And you don't really know, you don't really realize that. Like you can get away with it, but you're gonna see so much more progress when you aren't cutting. And I really wish that someone would have told me that too, of like it's not worth like a shitty placing. Like, is it really worth that to you? Like, is it worth the struggle to go through something for 4 months or 16 weeks and have to drive yourself into the ground and eat nothing and be miserable only to, barely stair step? Like, what is that end goal? And my end goal is kind of like the work backwards before I decide, okay, yes, I'm ready to go. If the end goal is pro card, the end goal is whatever it is, if I don't feel like I have had the time, then it's not time for me to prep.
mm,
And sometimes that's hard. Like a lot of times I try to refer to my coach and be like, here's what I'm thinking. I want to do these shows. And like, do you think this is realistic? And then see what they say and really try to like not really put it on myself and just listen to them and trust them and tell your coach, like, hey, these are my goals. I don't care how long it takes to get there. If you really, really want it, I'll be in an off season for 5 years. If you feel like I need to be in an off season for 5 years, it doesn't matter. But this is my goal. I want to get there. What's the fastest timeline we can get there? And what do I need to do? And if I still have work, then I'm not going to cut. I'm not going to prep, even if I want to. But like, I don't know. There's been preps where I just jumped into it because I placed shitty and I wanted to go into the next season and just get that placing away. And that's like so stupid. It's so dumb.
Well, I love that you talked about what an off season actually should look like. Because I have like, and I experienced this myself as a competitor. You feel like you're missing out. You almost feel like you're slacking off, even though you're not, right? Everybody else is
Yes.
getting lean. Man, it's so hard. You just want to jump right in, be lean, six pack like everybody is. You're like, hold up. And I've had to convince like almost big competitors that are have so much potential for champion physique. But I'm like, you got a year, honey. We need at least a year to put on this amount of muscle. You can't expect your physique to get better when you're carb deprived, when you can't push. Like, this is bodybuilding. This is not a get skinny contest. It is showing the muscle that you've developed in the off season. And muscle, unfortunately, takes a long time repetition. You can't rob the clock. You cannot rob the clock with these champion physiques and these girls. I especially this time of year. Oh man, I get
Yeah.
people who've been dieting for months and they come to me. They're like under 1,200 calories. They've been murdering themselves with cardio and they want to compete in 3 months. And I'm like, you're crazy. Like, no, we need like 6 months to get yourself to like a good maintenance, like healthy level. Sounds like we've got a lot of relationship repair with food already, you know. And I wish people understood more, competitors, first time competitors, that the what a true building season needs to look like.
Yeah.
And it's not just eat whatever you want. It's yes, there's more food flexibility for sure, absolutely, a lot of more wiggle room for holidays and things like that, but you are working and you're gonna have days of feeling a little puffy, a little fluffy, because then everyone else is gonna look lean. And the embracing discomfort in all the ways. That's what bodybuilding is. When you're lean, you wish you had more food. In the off season, you wish you were lean and you got your fluffy days. But like, if I think if more competitors had the mindset of embracing discomfort rather than obsessing about always looking shredded, we would see a lot more successful preps happen, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I agree with that 100%. It's just like when I'm always thinking about this too, if I haven't now, it's different than when I started because I've aged as time has gone on. So in the last like 10 shows that I've done, I've learned a lot about myself and it taught me that I was being in the past, I was so restrictive, even in my off seasons, that I never gave myself that mental break, especially with food, and just to relax, to like let my body actually relax. So I kind of miss prep and that grind mindset to lock in and like really unlock what you need to for a prep. It is so like you have to give yourself a break.
Yes.
There's very few people that I know that can be 24/7, 365 locked in. And I mean like 100% perfect, pushing all that you can. Like you have to put so much energy into this. But if you don't mentally rest and like have a cocktail and have a piece of cake and truly enjoy it, I would still, in the past off seasons, I would, but I would never allow myself to enjoy it. It would be, I have the cake, but now I'm worried because, oh my God, how much am I going to be up tomorrow? And I shouldn't have, I'm only going to have like one bite of it, even though I wanted the whole cake. And there's these weird conversations that we do in our head in these situations. It's like, just enjoy it. Like you have the calories, it's not going to hurt you. You might as well do it now. And then when you are in prep, like be super clean. So it's for me, I really do need to have a break with food and have my favorite foods and fun foods and kind of get them out of my system. So then when I am prepping, I know that I fully enjoyed and it's a very limited time and I can just stay on it. I don't need to have cake in the prep, right? That's what my off season was for. Like that is exactly what it's for. And it, again, like you were saying, like communication. Told my coach this. It was like, I need to know that food is coming, even if it's a long time. That's me personally. I need to know when my next refeed is, even if it's in 8 months. As long as I know it's in the future, I'll be good. If I know it's next week, I can sure as shit, I can keep my stuff in order for 1 week to get that one little extra things. So you just have to learn what works for you. Each person is different. Each prep is different because you're learning what works and like these little tips and tricks, and you just keep stacking and you keep stacking and then you keep growing. But you have to grow as a person outside of the gym. Like I really don't want to step on stage and look the same. Like that's not the goal. Some people, if that is, you just want to step on stage, then yes, but you really want to improve feedback. Like this sport is mostly done in the off season, even though we
Yes.
see a lot more in season.
Yes. I love that. I love that so much. And then the way I would word that, the relationship with food in the prep, the whole mindset, it's avoiding well, and a lot of this is mental talk, avoiding the victim mindset with food, right? And somehow finding a way to mentally not feel deprived. There's going to be a little bit, of course, but if you can find the balance of knowing when food is coming, have the total trust, relaxation. Oftentimes that's, with your coach communication, once again, trusting the process. And what that really means is you can relax, enjoy food. You don't have that crazy mental talk. And then in the on season, you don't make it an emotional roller coaster when you're eating food. It's kind of factual, it's like kind of like a math equation rather than a emotional conundrum to not have food. You're like, okay, I'm doing this. It's going to be a little painful to show the muscles, and then we're going to be right back and enjoying my food favorites. Um, it's a delicate balance, and it's different for everybody. I think avoiding that victim mentality with the food. I had someone the other day. It was a very interesting. She heard the process of bodybuilding, right? And she was looking at me, and she said something about, how did she word it? Was like, man, that just makes me so angry for you. Like, how do like doesn't it make you so mad that you have to eat that way? And I was like, what? I was like, and I realized so many people have so many emotions tied to food. I think the more you can break up that emotional attachment to food, the better a prep is going to go.
Yeah, man, that is gonna get people into trouble. If you have a negative or bad relationship with food, prep, it makes it worse. Like I feel like when I first started, I didn't like I just ate when I was hungry. Like there was no macros. It was just okay, I'm hungry now. I eat. It wasn't the best thing, it wasn't the worst thing. Sometimes I'd have vegetables, sometimes I wouldn't, but I knew what my hunger cues were. I feel like after I've prepped, it's a lot different because when you are restricting for so long, like you feel like oh my gosh, I'm starving. I will never have this food. So then when you're done with prep, it's like, okay, let me eat all this stuff and let me eat all that. And it does take time that you realize like food is always going to be there. And it's the same thing when you have more of it and when you have less of it. It's like a flow. It's like, okay, yes, I have a little bit more rice now than I do, but like it really doesn't change that dramatically. Like the habits that you have in prep, if you can keep them in the off season, I feel like it'll be better. So like the transition between prep to off season, it shouldn't be so dramatic. And like you should still like I try to the first couple preps, it was extreme. I was like really, really going for it. And it was more of a sprint to the finish instead of a marathon because I didn't really quite understand. I might have to save some of my energy and gas for the end because that's when I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
really need it. And at the beginning, when I first started prep, I wanted to get lean so fast that I didn't understand it was about keeping as much muscle as
Yep.
possible and reducing the body fat at the same time. And the goal is to keep your food as high as possible
As
and your
possible.
cardio.
Yes.
And it's not the bragging rights of, oh, I'm doing all this cardio. It's like that is bad. If you're doing all that cardio, that's like you're behind. Like you're not doing great, girl. Like it's not anything that you should be proud of.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so it
Yeah.
just bodybuilding is very interesting because it can help you understand like how to utilize food as a tool to change your physique. And once you've done it a few times, you kind of get the full picture. And then you truly realize, okay, food is input, which equals muscle output. And then when you drop food and you increase cardio, it's like now I'm lean and you realize you can really control your body composition when you understand like how prepping works. But you gotta trust your coach. Like it really comes back to finding someone that can work with you. Some people do it themselves, but you really have to when you go into a prep, you have to put your health in your coach's hands almost 100%. I have very stress-free preps now because I go into prep, I follow a plan. My coach can stress. I'm
Yeah.
not going to stress. I am paying them to stress out for me. And I used to be like, oh my God, I have to get this. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like you still have time. It's it's not an overnight thing. Like you don't just get lean in a week. You're having
No.
to get lean over like
And
a
you
month.
shouldn't get lean in a week, like
Yeah. Yeah.
as a whole off season, what was that for? Like all that muscle loss.
Yeah.
Um, no, I love that. And I'm sorry, I do follow you on social, and I'm sure you've posted about your plans for the next bit. Where are you wanting to go with? I love following you, by the way. You post awesome stuff, and
Thank
your
you.
off season is going fantastic. So don't get in your
Oh.
head about that at all. But
Well,
yeah,
well,
where are you at with everything?
okay, so I don't get to talk about myself very much here on episodes, but I will. So 2024, I'm doing one prep for sure. I'm not going to decide if I'm going to prep until April. So I'm going to really try to take the show date out of it and then decide either it's probably the end of March. Like I kind of want to I always slowly transition to prep. So January, February are going to be like full bulk mode and like pushing the weights and like really trying to reduce my cardio and really try to like push food. Then come
Mhm.
March, I want to try to get back to a little more consistency with like meal timings, getting up early in the mornings and doing workouts and like kind of testing. It's like, okay, am I ready to start going hard? Like if I like it, then keep going. And then April, I'll decide if I'm going to go into prep for August. I'm only really planning on doing one prep and one show so far. I truly know that I should probably take 2024 all off, but I'm not going to. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna just try to I think it's gonna be best for me just to go all in, do one prep and do it right. And I only have to focus on that. So the beginning of the year, it's pretty busy for me. And then the end of the year, I'm not exactly sure, but I have that goal. I really want to grow my legs. I think the stage weight for me is kind of like in the past. Like I don't really have a stage weight because of what I'm doing now. So it's not always this new like organization that I'm in. It's not about being like the leanest or the most muscular. It's about truly like what looks best on your body and what you like. So I'm just trying to push weight and build my legs. That's it. That's really it.
And
Just get really strong.
the organization, the WBFF, right?
Yeah.
That looks so cool, girl. I've been kind of looking into that myself just a smidge. I got the contour suit from Angel Competition. Yours
Mhm.
looked amazing, by the way. I was looking at
Thank
that one
you.
too. No, that's fabulous. Girl, with stage weight, I've never had the same stage weight. Like for me,
Yeah.
as I was putting on, like it was so different every time I stepped on stage that I don't think I really have one. The next time I step on stage, I'll probably be significantly heavier than last time. It's
Yeah.
always been that way.
Yeah.
But
I think,
you know,
yeah, my stage
so
weights like always have progressively gone up, which is hard because you
yes,
look better, but you're like heavier. So you're like, this doesn't add up. How does this make sense? So you're in a different shape.
yes. Oh, mine's been my weight differences have been so extreme. My body just needed to put on so much that now I still have my freak out moments for sure, looking at weight being like, oh my gosh, like that like how on earth is this better than last year when I was less weight. But I notice it doesn't affect me quite as much because it just, it's everyone's stage lean looks different. And once you get to a certain caliber of physique, I do notice that weight's pretty similar across the board with certain heights, right? But especially in the beginning, or if you're wanting to take your physique significantly to another level, stage weight, focusing on that too much can definitely be a distraction during prep. I've had a lot of athletes that has been a hang up for them where they really want me to give them a number and I frankly will refuse to. I'm like, no, there's no way we're going to be giving you a number because I don't want you in your head about it. But like anyway, everybody's process is a little bit different there. But um, what location are you looking to compete at? What's your favorite location as far as in the States go?
Oh, I like Vegas always just because it's fun and I like I like it. That's I mean my team's there, my friends are there. Like my family likes to travel. There's a lot of places to eat. So I always try to make prep some type of vacation and like fun event. So if anything, I would probably do Worlds again in August and just do that and just try to focus on like top three, like trying to get or try to win, I guess, or to get top three,
Heck
but
yeah.
that's a huge goal. So I don't want to push, like, I don't like to put pressure on myself because it's the longer I do this, the more I realize like it really doesn't really matter how you do. It's like what you do with it. Like it doesn't matter if you win, it really doesn't. Like some of my favorite athletes don't win, and I love following them anyway because they're just share their story and they do all this other stuff too. It's like almost more impressive to see someone like doing other things besides just prepping. It's interesting. So I like, and now I'm starting to do some coaching too. It's just and growing the podcast. But competing will always be like, I feel like I'm always going to be involved in competing just because I love it so much. And there's so many amazing people that compete. And everyone should do a prep. Like, I feel like it changes your life. Like, everyone should do at least one dramatic cut where you spend, I don't know, 16, I guess 60 days, maybe like 2 months straight. That would be hard for some people of like just following some type of diet and some type of training regimen for 60 days. And it would dramatically increase people's lives if they just learned like a little bit about nutrition and a little bit about how good you can feel when you move your body. So this year's, or I guess this year going into next year, it's been my personal journey is like kind of took a twist because I've had to redefine like what does healthy look like. And just getting comfortable not being stage lean because I prepped for a long time. Like I prepped for almost a year straight. So being in a stage lean body like for a whole year, it was awesome. It's freaking awesome. I'm like lean, I got these abs, but
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, now when I'm a healthy body fat, it's just getting used to like living in a healthy, like what that looks like and not being starving and like not feeling like I have to constantly push like that pushing mindset. It's just I need to actually like pump the brakes and less is more and be efficient and try to train less, like recover. Like recovery is so important too. Like I so it's if you diet for a year, you need to take off for more than that. Like your body does adapt. And if you just keep doing this sport, you keep lowering your metabolism so much. Like preps just suck. Like preps don't have to suck if you take proper time off. Like prep shouldn't be that hard and you can make it easier on yourself the longer you take off. So it takes me some time to realize, and I don't like being in the off season, but the longer that I do this, I realize like you should.
Probably, yeah. Longer off seasons. Not that I'm like it. The longer I've taken off. Well, think when I first started this, girl, my metabolism was absolute crap. Like there was hormone therapy I needed to get. Like I was at the low. Like 1,200 calories would be like an increase for me when in the very beginning, right? Like it was pretty bad, and my first preps were very extreme because there was, I mean, like I was already, what was I gonna, you can't exactly like how you're gonna cut if you haven't been eating that much, right? Um, uh, and the longer I've done this, I also don't like the off seasons. I have a wonderful man who consistently reminds me of reality sometimes. And of course, I think like one of the, like teaching other people, because it's so easy to see it with someone else, right? The right answers. With yourself, somehow we all of a sudden get all weird about it. Like, no, but I can't be not lean. Like,
Right.
you can see it on someone else. You're like, oh man, leg gains, yes, but then all of a sudden you can't, especially as an influencer when you're on social media. I think that can be a big fear factor, honestly.
Yeah.
um the longer I have taken off with my off seasons, and actually it was because my first off seasons, yeah, like they weren't very off seasony. um my legs actually started to grow when I started taking time off. And with my metabolism, I mean, like, I mean, like, a lot of the damage I have repaired, but my metabolism still sometimes just takes a second, especially if I go into a prep already stressed. The last one, like I said, was pretty gnarly on me. I think having the courage to take that time off and really give your system and mindset a chance to relax and be comfortable in a more relaxed competitor state. Like, yes, you're pushing in the gym, but it's not your life, right? Having the confidence, the courage to do that, your prep intensity and your delivery on stage is going to be so much better. But
Yeah.
that's a hard freaking balance, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if more competitors understood that going in, like I said, I think a lot more healthier preps would happen. But
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard, I guess, because of social media now. When I first started social media, like 2016, 2017, like it was still in the you just post what you're doing kind of phase,
yeah,
not you post like this curated persona of perfectionness.
yeah,
That it is now. Like I feel like now there's a lot more, I guess we just see so much. Like you can just like so you sit on reels or whatever, and you can just see like thousands of people like really quickly. And there's so many people to follow and so many platforms, and like everyone's posting everything. But we see so much at once. Like it's hard not to want to compare yourself to others that you see, especially if they are starting in the same place. Like if you prep at, this show, and then you see someone, one of your friends that you even stepped off stage and now they're doing all these different things and their timeline is different than yours. That's even harder too. It's like, man, I even know this person and we even were on the stage and they're in a different place than I am and all this kind of stuff. And you just have to stay true to it and like realize like this is personal journey and you gotta just keep it focused on you and your goals. And just if you can do that, you can stay in the sport as long as you want. But if you get caught up in the lean game and body dysmorphia of I just want to be lean, 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 good for you. But like the judges and like the sport, they don't care what you weigh and they don't care that you're lean in the off season. Like nobody, when you realize like nobody cares, like I'm telling you, like literally nobody cares if you have an ab, like a six pack abs, but you're not a good person. Like you're not a good person because you're so tired and everything. Like
yes,
um, having a life outside of the sport is important. Like I did for a certain point of time, like you do have to make it your life, but you still have to have a life outside of it. Like getting things outside the gym. You can live and breathe this if that's what you want to do. Like some people you can do that, but for most of us, it's going to be a short window of time that you're going to be on stage. Eventually, you're not going to be able to compete. I guess you can compete your whole life, but the reality is it's not going to be for everybody for the whole time. So enjoy it while you're in it, but then make sure that your relationships are thriving and that you are still getting out there and you're not scared to be around food and be around people, even when you are dieting. I like last year. I think 2022 taught me like I traveled a lot and I was around a lot of people and I used to be scared to travel on prep and like almost wouldn't, where I wouldn't almost be okay. Like, oh, I can't go to that event without when I'm on prep because I was like scared of, I don't know, like it just was hard to say no around a bunch of stuff. But once I started going to those events, it was way more fun and it makes prep fun. Like, what are you gonna do? Sit in your house for 4 months straight and like strap your legs to the treadmill? Like I mean, you can and you can get lean, but what about if you still had a life and you're going and staying busy? Like this year, I was playing intramural volleyball on prep, and I wouldn't have done that in the past because I would have been scared of hurting myself. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, like nothing can ruin this prep. Like, I won't even risk doing any type of like non-gym activity if I could potentially
Hmm.
get hurt. Like little things like that. That's just it was just dumb. I was missing out on experiences in life because I was so pigeonholed. And it just you have to kind of step back and just look at the big picture of if prep can do a lot of good things for you, bodybuilding can really significantly enhance everything. But if you let it be a negative tool, I've seen athletes and myself included, they can really not be great, but it is so amazing. So I hope that when you like people are listening to this, that you have both sides of the coin. It's like, okay, I want to do this, but you are cautious, you are ready, and then you have all the information that you need. And then also, like, you can't it's hard because you have to go all in to win if that's your goal, but you need to not go all in to have that break. So the thing that they talk about of balance, balance in your physique, but you have to have balance as an athlete in your life so your physique can thrive. I
Yeah.
that's what I feel like. I don't know if you've experienced that now because you've had a second to be away.
Yes. And it's really it was a wake up call, girl. Like, being on your own, being able to not having obligations, not having to be there for very many people. Because, if you're pouring into everybody else's cup, you're not going to have enough for a prep. And that's what I experienced last time, and it's like, and, the in it to win it, like 100% pigeonhole mindset, you have to have that if you're really wanting to win, especially if you are wanting to go pro. That's going to require
Yes.
sacrifice. People need to know if you are wanting to place number one with not just like where you want your physique, where the judges want your physique compared to everybody else on that stage who's competing with you, that is going to take your everything plus some. And I think some people need to, I mean, that's kind of a brutal subject. I don't know if you've ever read by Tim Grover, Relentless or Winning, but they're brutal books about what it really means to win.
Yeah.
And I think going into first time competitors coming into bodybuilding, the first couple shows should be like, you're getting a taste of what the sport really is and where you really want to take it. You
Mhm.
know, if you're wanting to go pro, it like you need to accept that it's going to
Yeah.
require sacrifice and you can't be sidelined by that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're not wanting that, like defining where you want to bring your physique and understanding what it's going to cost to get there in every sense of the word. I think this is an amazing sport that I think everyone should try at least once, right? It just has so many benefits. But clearly defining your goal and knowing what it is going to require, not just of you, but like of your life, right? Um, does that make sense?
Yeah, like I didn't understand what it meant to like what my all was. And it took a long time until I truly was like, am I giving this prep my all? And why am I wasting my time? I don't want to go through another prep and waste that time. If you're going to diet, diet. Like
Yes.
having little bites off is not 100%. Like it's if you're swapping things out, if you're missing cardio, if you're missing reps, if you're missing exercises, like that, those things add up. And like what you're all that's hard because when you put yourself out there, it's really, really hard when you truly get to the stage. Like there was a show that I did, and I've never prepped so hard, and I was so proud of that physique. But when I got to stage, I got a horrible placing, and I had to accept that. Like, I literally gave my all, and it was scary because I'm like, I put myself out there. I was proud of it. I mentally, before the placing happened, I was in the best mental spot ever. I was like killing it, crushing it. And then we get this placing that I was like, oh my gosh, that wasn't enough yet. And that pissed me off. It really fucked me up for a while. I was really like, that was my all.
I
Can
saw
I
your
give?
post about that. That
Yeah.
was, yeah.
In this sport, it is hard because you have to not make decisions like emotionally. And when the judges are telling you that their feedback for you, and it was the first time that I realized my all might not be good enough that day. And you really have to like objectively look at yourself and sit down and have a hard conversation of, am I at my best? Or if I am just lying to myself, was there any ounce of effort? And that's through cardio, through training. And then when you get to stage and like, let's say you do work really hard, but you still are that like you're getting close, but you're not that close. It makes you realize like all of those reps add up. I should have pushed myself. I should have been adding weight every single time. I could have been doing this. And like through getting, sometimes you have to have a low spot to get high. It's like you want to improve. It's like no matter what, it forces you to really push past. Like, oh, I thought that was my all. What does it actually look like when I am checking every single box? Not just most of them, not 99% of them. I'm like, what is 110? And 110% is the difference between first call outs or first place and
Mm-hmm.
literally like second or third place. And you really have to tap into like it's hard because it's if you're listening to this in your first time competitor, you're probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? But if you get on a couple shows, you know what I mean? Like there's always more that you can give. And you just have to learn that prep. Now that I know how hard it is, like when you see success and you're like, holy cow, I did a really hard prep and it turned out and it's like, oh, okay, when I was 100%, I did get what I wanted or it did work. Then you have like that is your standard. It's like, okay, now 110% is my standard. So you have to get back there and go up. So you need time between shows. Like some people go on runs where you'll just like stay lean and keep going and going and going. But at a certain point, it's like you are going to have to take time to like fix it. And sometimes like you're in an off season, you're not necessarily fixing your physique. It's like little things like your stage presence or flexibility or skin care, hair care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all those things really, really, really add up at the end for that package. So habits, like habits start in the off season and they're not going to get better in prep. So make your habits now. Like if you want to be competing, you need to have, can I, without stress of being in prep, can I follow my plan? If you can't do it when you're not cutting, it's not gonna work. So you gotta be able to follow your plan, stick to reverse dieting, be able to like actually follow something to a T before you decide, okay, let's switch to prep. Because prep is good to lose weight, but it is not gonna really help long term unless you are ready for it.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Champion physiques are made in the off season, so make them productive.
Yeah.
On season, it's on 100% dialed in. You're not messing around. That was what the off season was for.
Yeah.
And then after the show, be ready to once again go into slowly, progressively get into an off season but productive mindset where you are still being very attentive to a plan. Although there's flexibility, there's still a plan. It's not just a free for all, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think one can be without the other, right? Prep, on season needs the off season. Both of them are structured, although one's more flexible and one's a little bit more, well, a lot more strict. But no, I love that. I love that.
Good. Okay. So we're getting close to the end of your episode. Is there anything that we haven't touched about your journey that you wanted to make sure that we covered?
You know, I think I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I guess I'll just close with this. You know, there's been nothing that has been more empowering than the sport of bodybuilding because it has taught me that you really can control your mindset, your physique, everything about you, including your reactions to life in general and how you handle that, is within your control. The world is chaos, really is, right? But you have full power over yourself. And with bodybuilding, dialing in and seeing almost like a chemical reaction, what your physique is truly capable of is the coolest thing on the planet. So I think people who are looking to increase their sense of empowerment, their self discipline, the way they view their body, because it can be a very positive thing, bodybuilding. I think that a journey to the stage would be very beneficial for those people. If they are competing just for self value and to look sexy, I honestly think that there should be a different main reason. I don't think that those people should necessarily compete solely for that. But that's
Yeah,
what I was with. Yeah.
I agree. All right. Okay. So last piece of advice for someone that has never been on stage but wants to, one more thing, what would you tell them?
Well, don't start restrictive right before you contact a coach or before you start a program. It can't be after you've dieted a ton. So if you're yo-yo dieting and you are struggling to break away from that, find someone to pull you out of that or pull yourself out of that yourself, because your first journey to the stage is going to be really rough if you're starting from a cut.
Yeah.
That would probably be the biggest piece of advice I'd give.
Yes. All right. And then for our final question, are you team cupcake? Are you team protein shake?
Ooh, I think, I would choose. Is there team ice cream? Can that be one?
Yeah, I guess that's
No,
acceptable.
I'll take the cupcake.
Okay. And what flavor would you be if you were a cupcake?
Ooh, I would be cookies and cream.
Oh, okay, good. Because my last episode, they were like protein shake. I'm like, come on, I need some cupcakes.
No, cupcake. I would definitely be a cupcake.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It was nice to get to know you and your journey a little bit better. And hopefully, anyone listening this can, share these pieces of advice because we got into like the good side and the bad side. So I hopefully that you guys got a well-rounded look of what prep actually is. And before
Mm,
we start to jump into the stage, especially this time of year, we're really thinking twice about it, and we are in a good mental spot before we dip into prep.
absolutely. Hey, thanks so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.